This clip is sponsored by Wash and Go, and that can only mean one thing. That's right, I'm surrounded by a sea of green. By now you should know that Wash and Go is the best way to look after your luscious locks. I mean, look at what it's done for mine. Fantastic. But you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at some of the 600 plus unreal reviews on their Amazon page. Linda from the United Kingdom says, well, it smells lush and leaves hair smelling fresh. Fantastic, Linda. Kindle customer JSB says, product arrived as advertised. Always very important. Always important to know that, Kindle customer JSB. And finally, my personal favourite, it's shampoo and it works for me. Absolutely fantastic there from Casey. It is indeed shampoo and also a conditioner. If you want to get your Wash and Go today, then hit the link in the description and get your bottle sent to you today. And remember, it's a shampoo and it works for me. Says JB. I tell you what I would love to do. I'm sure all of you would love to do this. So there's nothing unique about this. I would absolutely love to, not because I'm a fanboy or anything like that, I would absolutely love to sit down opposite a Gary Neville or a Roy Keane or a Jamie Carragher or, you know, a Graham Souness. I'd just love to sit opposite them and be given 10 topics by people where they just go, you know, Man United's best manager in the last 10 years. Gary Neville. Sunshine, Gary Neville, it's Ollie. No, you're wrong. I'd love to have that sort of sit down, a couple of pints in front of us and a chat on camera. It'd be great, but I don't think they'd ever do it, really. You get the sense they would never do it, because even when they do that overlap and they take questions from the crowd, it's like, I bet those questions are vetted. Erzen, thank you very much for being a subscriber, for a chat. Right, let's go with the most overrated player at every Premier League club in our half-time chat here, because it's 0-0 at half-time. There's not a lot to discuss in a very interesting game. I think we're in for a very interesting 45 minutes. Everton would love a point. Liverpool desperately need to win. I don't think Liverpool are showing enough ambition to win this game at the moment, so I think we're in for a very interesting second half. Right, overrated 11, said somebody there. Hard to do an overrated 11 if you don't do overrated player at every Premier League club. So let's start at Manchester City. Who's the most overrated player at Manchester City? Well, obviously I think people would say Jack Grealish, because he cost £100 million. All I would say is, if you took 10 off... So if you said that Kyle Walker's pace is 96... If you took 10 off it and put it down to 86, how good of a right back would he be without pace? Does it make him overrated? Well, no, pace is an attribute. But I just wanted to offer it up there that he is good because he's fast. I don't think there's anything else to his game that makes me think, I don't think his passing's good, I don't think his crossing's good, I don't think his tackling's good. I just think he's super fast. But I think overrated doesn't mean you're crap. You could be overrated because people think you're really good when you're just average, or you're just good instead of excellent. So I think overrated's an interesting thing to do. I think that it's hard at Man City because they're so good. Some people are saying Grealish, some people are saying Sterling. I think if I go with the chat, people would say Grealish. Nathan Ake's not overrated because he's not rated. Foden's a bit overrated. I mean, that's the sort of thing that I think is, you know, Foden could be overrated because people say he's world class. Is he world class? So, but I think I'd have to go with the chat and say Grealish is overrated. At that level, I just don't think he's up to it. But it's only season 1. Will you ever watch David Beckham's Inter Miami in the MLS, or will you ever watch the MLS? I can't say I never will, but I haven't. So yeah, I think I probably would go with Grealish as being overrated, based on the transfer fee. I think it was extortionate. Liverpool, who's the most overrated player at Liverpool? Without looking at the chats, have they got a player that I think's overrated? I think Keita is a bit overrated. I think Liverpool fans love Keita, and I think he's quite, I wouldn't say he's average, but I think he's a bit overrated. I think Matip is underrated. I think people like Jordan Henderson are underrated. You couldn't say that the fullbacks or Van Dijk are overrated. Thiago's a good player. I mean, Mane and Salah aren't really overrated. Yeah, I think if I had to go for someone, I'd probably say Keita, personally. Keita dominated your midfield, Mark. Oh my God! Like, who asked for an idiot to chat? I mean, Romu dominated our midfield. Norwich's midfield, I don't even know their name, dominated our midfield. It doesn't mean you're a good player if you dominate Man United's midfield. And also, you please read the instructions before commentating. People think overrated means you're crap. You might think that Messi's overrated, that people have said, you know, he's better than he actually is. Doesn't mean you're not a good player. Overrated just means that a good player people might think is world class, or an average player people might think is good. So, few people saying Trent. It's harder to do overrated players at clubs that are so good. I agree, but I'd say Keita. Bruno doesn't play for Liverpool. We'll come to him. It takes a bit of time to get to United because we're going down from first place, you see. So Chelsea, who do you think? Wow, it's easy. Chelsea's easy. Chelsea, Lukaku. Some people say Jorginho. He's fell off. Definitely fell off this season. A few people say Mount. Keep up the great work, Mark, says Mike Green. Thank you very much for the super chats. Yeah, I don't think it was a red, Sam. Looking at the second one. I was thinking about 2 yellow cards, but I don't think I'd give him a yellow for the second one. I think Jorginho's going to get it at Chelsea. He's definitely not very popular at Chelsea at the moment. It's amazing how the fan base has turned on Jorginho at Chelsea. But there you go. Klopp was asked in an interview about our situation. He said, "You can't come to Anfield with no defensive midfielders. This board are to blame for this," says Dan. And I looked up Main Road's record attendance, and it was 84,000 against Stoke on the 3rd of March 1934. 1934? Come on. You could get 200,000 at Wembley in the 30s. You can't use your bloody record attendance from before the fucking Second World War. They didn't even have... They just let everybody in. So, most overrated player at Arsenal. Is Lacazette overrated? I don't think he's really rated, is he? I'm just going to go off the chat now. Smith Rowe's overrated, says Ellis. Pepe, he's not rated. I think some people are struggling with the brief here. Overrated doesn't mean the shit, it just means you're overrated. And like Josh says, Lacazette's not really ever been rated. Ben White, he's a good one. Is Ben White a little bit overrated? I would agree on that one, because if you ask me, I think Gabriel's really good, and I think Ben White's steady, but I think Ben White gets thrown into the same conversation as Gabriel, and I think Gabriel's on a different level to Ben White. I do think he's good, bit overrated. Ramsdale, oh mate, you know what? One thing that really, really winds me up about Ramsdale, right? I think he's had a great season for Arsenal, and he made some big saves yesterday. But people talk about David De Gea's distribution. Ramsdale's distribution is bloody awful. Like, even though I wanted us to win, every time the ball went to him, I was going like that. It's like, ooh, his distribution's not great. It's not breaking news about Timber, Damien. I'm going to start blocking knobheads in the chat. We've already had United have put an offer in for Nunez. This is not your chat for your knobhead made-up stories about who you've bought, who you're buying. Is Ben White better than Lindelof? Says Paul. Pickford's better than Ramsdale. No. I think Ramsdale's a good goalkeeper. I think he should be England's number one, but he probably is a little bit overrated, to be fair. But going off the chat, I think we'll go with... we'll just go with... we'll go with Lacazette, I think. Spurs. Who's the most overrated player at Spurs? Harry Kane. Nah, I'm only joking. I don't. Do Spurs actually overrate their players? It is quite difficult. I think if you're at a club where it's difficult to find a player that's overrated, then you're probably doing quite well. Kulusevski's overrated, is he? Davinson Sanchez. Kenny Freeman, thanks for the chat. Son, Højbjerg. Son's overrated. Lloris is definitely. I'd go with Lloris. Yeah, I think Lloris is a good shot. I don't think he's a bad goalkeeper, but I definitely think he's overrated. I've never felt that he was a world-class goalkeeper. I think he's always got a mistake in him. The amount of goals where I've needed Spurs to win and he's messed it up. John's done something with his pot noodle. Dyer, says Thomas. No, it's not a bad shout. Which leads us on to Manchester United, and really it's a bit like a lucky dip. There's probably not a name you can say that would be wrong with United for overrated. I mean, this season is who's not overrated. I mean, yeah, Bruno, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, Shaw, Rashford, Lingard, Cavani. I mean, Fred and McTominay don't get rated, so you can't overrate them, but yeah, it's just a massive list at Manchester United. A lot of people in the chat are saying Bruno or it's got to be Rashford. I think to be fair, it's because in fairness to people like Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, people just say they're not worth 50 and 80 million. I think with Bruno, who's overrated at West Ham? Well, West Ham have done very good at overachieving, so it's hard to say. Declan Rice, I thought Declan Rice might get mentioned. Is he overrated? He's overpriced. That's not his fault. He's not £100 million, that's for sure. But is he overrated? Well, I think Declan Rice is a good example of why this has been quite a decent half-time chat, because there's no doubt that Declan Rice is a very good player, but some people talk about him like he's world-class. Like he's on that level with Kimmich and people like that and Casemiro, and he's not yet. So he probably is a little bit overrated, to be fair, in the sense that some people think he's better than he actually is. He is fantastic. So maybe it is Declan Rice. Some people saying Antonio and Soucek, says Vignesh. But what you can't deny is that they've had a fantastic year, West Ham. Please do subscribe, by the way. Bottom right-hand corner, you're all very, very welcome. 0-0 at half-time between Liverpool and Everton. Liverpool have not been that dominant. I predicted 3-0 before the start of the game, and I said there'd be a lot of goals. It's 0-0 at half-time. West Ham down to... is it Wolves next? I mean, do we even care who's overrated at Wolves? The game's about to start anyway now. That was enjoyable. It passed a little bit of time. Jimenez is... I don't think Jimenez was fantastic, and I feel bad to say he's overrated because I think post-injury he's just not the player he was, isn't he? So Cody's probably overrated at Wolves. I don't actually think he's that good. The fact that he gets picked for England all the time as well, I might be a bit controversial here. Goldbridge, that's the end of the clip. I'm sure you enjoyed it. In fact, I bet that's the best clip you've ever watched. So there's no reason not to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon so you never miss a clip again. In fact, smash a like on the video because we all know only legends like videos and you are all legends. So please smash a like on the video and we will see you again on the next one. Thank you very much for watching as always.